Welcome to the Sweetwater County Board of County Commissioners meeting for this October 18th. Thankful to have all of you here in chambers with us and those that are online. We do have a quorum present. All commissioners are here in chamber with us today. If you would all please join me in rising for the Pledge of Allegiance and afterward a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Commissioners, we've been presented an agenda. What is your pleasure with that agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Do we have a motion? Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'd like to consider amending the agenda
Yes.
and adding a conversation following tab G, and that would be regarding holiday hours for courthouse and employees. So I'd make a motion to amend it.
We have a motion to amend tab G. Oh, amend the tab
Not
G?
G, amend the amendment.
Add H?
Amend the agenda and add a tab EFGH
Attaboy.
for an educator that doesn't know his alphabet.
Second.
We have a motion to and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Right.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Back to our original. We have a motion and a second. Further discussion regarding our regular agenda, our now amended agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
One last comment.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to thank Mr. De Leon for the agreement between Sweetwater County Board of County Commissioners and the Sweetwater County Fair Board. I think it's a good agreement. I think it's well put together and very helpful for us to know where expenses are going. Thank you, Candy, for working with us and your board as well. Thank you.
That leads us to our consent agenda, which that agreement is one of the items. Tab A. Commissioners, I assume you've had time to review.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Further discussion regarding the consent agenda? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. On to tab B, we have some planning and zoning and public hearings. Welcome aboard
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
in the driver's seat. I like it.
All right, we've got two public hearings before you guys today. Both are very similar in nature, so we'll make this quick and painless for everybody. And we'll first start off with Andy and Erica McCarroll. They are proposing a zone map amendment out where they would like to build out at 418G Yellowstone Road. If you guys know where Kelly Road's at, it's at the very, very end. They're proposing to change the zone on their property from R2SF, which is single family, to RR, which is rural residential. It's a 20-acre parcel out there. Plenty of land, but it does land within the growth management area. Lots of existing infrastructure out there. It's in Fire District number 1. Kelly Road actually is one of the few private roads within the county that people do live out there. So please keep that in mind. And 10 Mile Water and Sewer District is where they are within, but most people are on well and septic out there. And Rocky Mountain Power also services the area. The reason the McCarrolls have requested this zone map amendment is for the simple fact that they would like to use their 20 acres of land, and R2SF doesn't allow people to build an accessory structure larger than 100% of their residence in which they live. They would like to go up to the 200%, which would be allowed in the rural residential zone that they are proposing to go to. Here is the proposed zoning map. As you can see, most of the area is R2SF, the single family residential, but there is a parcel just to the southwest of both of these properties, actually about 2 years ago, that was also changed to rural residential, just for a little bit of different reason. But again, wanting to use the large acreage that is out there to how they would please. As you can see, code enforcement specialist Jim Zimmerman has posted public notice out on the property. We'll just breeze real quickly through the review criteria. There's 6 review criteria for the zone map amendment. The 2 that I want to focus on is the second criteria. The proposed zoning is suitable with existing topography and creates buildable lots. There's nothing out there on this property right now. It's very large. The area that they're building in is full of at least 20 acre, 48 acre lots in this little area of the county. Plenty of space for people to build and use their land as they would please. And then the 4th criteria that I want to focus on is the proposed zoning can demonstrate adequate public facilities, including roads, drainage, potable water, sanitary sewer, police and fire protection exist or will serve to exist the request at the time such facilities are needed. Currently, there's no infrastructure on the property. It's a vacant piece of land. They would like to get started building within the next year or so, it sounds like. But it will be the responsibility of the property owners at the time to make sure they get the needed infrastructure on their property when they go to get a building permit with us in the future. And they are aware of that. Staff has not received any negative comments against this proposal, and we don't see any adverse effect on adjacent properties, and it does conform with all provisions of the Sweetwater County zoning resolution. We did receive 1 agency comment from Colorado Interstate Gas. They have no facilities in the area and have no concerns. And last week at the October 12th, 2022 Planning and Zoning Commission, they voted 4-0 to approve this request, and staff also recommends approval. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Questions regarding the recommended approval of the zoning map change? Seeing none. We'll open up for public hearing. This is regarding recommendation 22-10-ZO-01. Any public comments?
Mr. Chairman, point of order.
Yes, sir.
Do we have to have a motion on the recommendation before it goes to public hearing? Or not, Eric?
Nope, other way around.
Other way around. Thank you.
Any public comment? While we're waiting, I will admit I neglected to acknowledge Commissioner in waiting, Highland Richards in the back. Thank you for being here today. Appreciate it. No comments. We will close public hearing. And commissioners, what is your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Wendling.
I'll make a motion for the recommendation of 22-10-ZEBO-01 for the approval of a zoning map amendment from single family residential to a rural residential as requested by Andy and Erica McCarroll.
Thank you. I have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, that should be a motion to approve the resolution.
Not the recommendation?
Where was the recommendation? That was my point of order earlier. Isn't there a recommendation first and then an approval?
The recommendation is from the Planning and Zoning Commission. That's just a point of reference. The resolution is what you're actually approving today.
Okay,
The
Mr.
next
Chairman,
page.
I'll withdraw my motion.
Motion withdrawn, second as well.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 22-10-ZO-01 for approval of a zoning map amendment from single family residential to rural residential requested by Andy and Erica McCarroll.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Carry on.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The second public hearing we have before you is a parcel just south of the last one that we just got finished approving. The property owner is Eric and Patricia Fairbanks. It's also a 20-acre parcel located out there. Without boring anybody here, everything's pretty similar. They're looking
not
at
happen.
changing from R2SF to rural residential. Same reasons as the last applicant, wanting to use their land more to the fullest potential that they have for the 20 acres that they own. As you can see, located just south of the last parcel that we did. And I will jump right into the only review criteria that I would like to bring to your guys' attention. Excuse me, and that's the criteria number 4, talking about adequate public facilities located out there. Because this parcel is behind the previous parcel, they don't have direct access off of Kelly Road. And at the time in which they would like to build on their property, they will need to make sure they get at least a 60-foot easement through the property just north of them so that they can access off the Kelly Road. And at the meeting last week with the Planning and Zoning Commission, Mr. Fairbanks stated that he's actually looking to get 80 feet. So we're good there. They're well planning everything that they're needing to and going above and beyond so far. So we're grateful for that. Other than that, everything meets the Sweetwater County zoning resolution. We did have one agency comment again, the Colorado Interstate Gas Company. Don't have anything in the area, so they have no concerns. And again, at the planning and zoning meeting last week, they voted 4-0 to recommend approval, and staff also recommends approval. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Questions regarding this zone map amendment? Seeing none, then we will open for public comment. This regarding resolution 22-10-0-02. Any comments? Then we will close the public hearing. And commissioners, I will ask, what is your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Lloyd.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution 22-10-0-02 for approval of a zoning map amendment from single family residence R2 /SF to public rural residential RR requested by Eric and Patricia Fairbanks.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Thanks always for the work. We appreciate that in the Planning Zoning Committee and walking through all the regulations. Much appreciated. We're on to county residents' comments, concerns, and of course, compliments, which we get many of. So anybody that would like to address the board may step up to the microphone, or we'll also monitor online and see if there are any comments, emails, or otherwise. So county residents' concerns. Welcome. If you'd state your name and who you're representing today.
Sure. I'm Candy Pendleton. I'm the executive director at the Events Complex and didn't plan on saying this today, but County Road and Bridge has been out at the county, at the Events Complex property for the last couple of weeks, putting down the rotomill. You guys remember we received all that rotomill from the I-80 project. And so they are putting that rotomill down with the base one product in the whole grandstands parking lot, which is amazing. And we appreciate the support of County Road and Bridge and the cooperation between the two agencies. So next time you're out there, it's basically paved. So for emergency services this year, it'll be really nice. So thank you. And thank them for their support. It's been really nice.
Certainly.
I observed that yesterday when I drove by. It looks very nice on the alternate arena.
Other comments? Oh, so close. They're just sliding by. Okay.
Hey, thank you.
Almost. I thought there for a second. Then we will close our county resident comments, concerns, and compliments, of which we received one. Awesome. I'd like to see that. And we're on to tab C, our action items. Request approval of the 2022 Wyoming Office of Homeland Security Grant Agreement documents. It's Marshall.
Morning, Christina.
Good morning from my water bottle today. Anticipating some good conversation. So let me get set up. So, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I'll be actually covering the next 3 agenda items
We
and
appreciate it.
welcome any input from you in discussion. So, and I'd like to point out on this first one for the Wyoming Office of Homeland Security Grant Agreement, Lieutenant Joe Tomich is here with me about the project. So in this first one, Wyoming Office of Homeland Security has awarded Sweetwater County $44,901.48 in federal Homeland Security funding. The term to expend this funding is September 1st, 2022 through August 31st, 2024. So the purpose of this funding is to improve the sheriff's office bomb squad's capability to prevent a threatened or actual act of terrorism. The project consists of purchasing an X-ray system, which is critical for the detection and identification of improvised explosive devices and other hazardous devices. So in our request, it's an X-ray system, including digital radiograph, X-ray source, and freight. Couple of notes. I am very happy to say that we asked permission to increase our request by 10% over an estimated quote, which again, I want to clarify, we didn't go out for bids, but you have to have an estimate when you apply for a grant. The commission has been slammed with so much overage. And so they allowed us to put into the grant and they awarded an extra 10% for the rising costs. First time ever in my 23 years with the county. This new X-ray system will replace 2 antiquated portable radiograph systems that have reached their end of life. Final note from me before Joe comes up, the Sweetwater Bomb Squad is one of the busiest bomb squads in Wyoming and serves a major portion of southwest Wyoming and northeastern Utah, protecting 149,000 citizens who reside in the coverage area. Typically, it handles over 30 incidents and activities a year. And I neglected to say there is absolutely no cash match required on this. So with that, I'm available for questions, or Lieutenant Joe Tomich, would you like to add anything? Okay.
Questions for Ms. Marshall or Lieutenant Tomich?
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Lloyd.
Yeah, not a question, but just want to thank Ms. Marshall and the sheriff's office and Joe for the diligence and thought process of actually asking the grant agency for an overage, knowing that we continually are seeing the rise in costs. And by the time we're awarded, we're seeing almost everything 5 to 15 or in vehicles, almost 30% more than we were expecting. So I really appreciate the due diligence and the willingness to take a look at that outside. So thank you for that work. As far as the grant, I think it's fantastic to actually replace some of that antiquated system. So antiquated system. So with that, thank you for your work for both your ends.
And
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
the items that you would hopefully be approving are a point of contact form and the actual agreement.
Okay, I'm sure we will go with your recommended motion there. We appreciate that. Then we can vote on it. Other questions?
Mr. Tomich, we will not ask for a demonstration on this one. We want a boat ride though, when you get the boat.
With that, what's your pleasure, commissioners?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Wendling.
I'll make a motion to approve and authorize chairman to sign the 2022 Wyoming Office of Homeland Security Grant Agreement documents.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I would second that, Mr. Chairman.
Further discussion? All those in, I'm sorry?
A nice job.
Oh, okay. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I did want to point out in that packet, I know you just approved it, but again, it takes an army to deal with county activities. And on page 69 of your PDF packet, I believe, I just wanted to point out in the contract, it does require a nationwide cybersecurity review as part of our requirements. Before I could blink, our IT director, Tim Knight, already completed this for me. So just want to let you know we're in compliance, and I am sad he's no longer in the room. So, okay.
Thank you.
Good, because I only have 23 pages, so I'm glad.
Oh, yours. Oh, I was referencing the main
Oh, the-
packet on the
The
website,
big one.
the
Okay.
big one. So,
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
all right.
Carry on.
Okay, this is agenda item number 2, and I'll be pointing out additional items in this contract. So this is the Community Services Block Grant. So the Wyoming Department of Health awarded Sweetwater County $223,756 in federal Community Services Block Grant funding for projects that were recommended by the tripartite board. I'm going to take a pause. Come on in and listen.
Oh, our job
Sure.
shadowing students. Excellent. Yeah,
Oh.
anywhere you like.
Front row's ideal. So, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I'll start off again. So the Wyoming Department of Health awarded Sweetwater County $223,756 in federal community services block grant funding for projects that were recommended by the tripartite board. The term to expend the funding is October 1, 2022 to September 30th, 2023, and it requires no cash match. So as you may recall, this funding is to empower low-income individuals to overcome the effects of poverty and support the progress towards greater self-sufficiency. Eligible clients must be at or below 200% of the federal poverty level, and the funding will be passed through to sub-grantees who will implement the priorities through their programs. So there will be a total of 4 sub-grantee contracts in addition to the main grant award. I'd like to review that. So the first one is to Rock Springs Young at Heart for a total of $65,400. That's to provide 3 different programs: provide childcare services while parents are working, seeking employment, or attending school. Next, to provide homemaker services to elderly and disabled individuals. And then finally, provide meals and special diet food to elderly and disabled individuals. Sweetwater County School District Number 1 Head Start will receive $32,478. That is to provide comprehensive case management to income eligible Head Start parents through a family advocate. The third subgrantee is Sweetwater Family Resource Center. They will, upon your approval, receive $54,500. That is to provide housing assistance, including emergency rent and utilities. And I'd like to point out that of that total amount, $54,500, $19,500 was placed as a contingency by the tripartite board to evaluate the outcomes of the housing for the clients. Basically, for clients to receive services, they have to take a step forward, either having proof of registering for employment job service or taking steps to improve their situation. So that's why it's a contingency. And then finally, the YWCA of Sweetwater County is slated to receive $54,000. That is for 2 programs. One is the child care services to provide child care services while parents are working, seeking employment, or attending school. And second, to provide rent, deposit payments, and utility payments to victims of domestic violence through the Center for Families and Children. And then finally, there is funding set aside for operational costs, including insurance for the board, advertising when I do public notices, dues, and travel and training for conferences. So I do have some notes on this. As I mentioned, there's 4 subgrantee contracts. Our chairman graciously signed the main contract before October 1st, so we could get an executed contract. If approved by you all for the subgrantee contracts, all expenses as of October 1 will be reimbursed. So the first item I want to put in perspective is when we talk about federal poverty levels. Originally, this grant was slated to assist people at 100 or 125% of the federal poverty level. That would mean someone whose annual income is $12,490 could receive assistance. However, Congress has approved it to stay at 200%, which has been the case since COVID. That increases eligibility for a household of one person to be at $27,180. An example of let's say a couple with one child, that's a household of three. Their income would be at $46,060 to qualify for assistance. Just thought you should know that. And then I'm in an interesting position. I literally closed out last year's block grant and have data of what, with your support, you provided. I'm not going to go into all the details because I have 8 pages of data, but you should be aware that last year off of the CSBG grant, 398 individuals were served, representing 201 families. In terms of age bracket, it's probably no surprise the highest percentage of population served was age 25 to 44 years old. That was 28.14%. Who do you think is the second highest age bracket that was served of these programs?
The seniors.
Kids age 0 to 5. That represented 22.36%. And then you were targeting some of the basically the most of the rest is the senior population. So I thought that was interesting to know how many children in our community are impacted by this grant. Another statistic, 60% were females, representing 239 of the clients. So that's on some of the data. And of course, if you want to talk more about that, please come see me. Next, I wanted to point out some items included in the contract. So the subgrantees all have the same template, all 4 agencies. Now, if you want to scroll through, I'm looking at the first subgrantee contract in your packet, which happens to be Rock Springs Young at Heart. I just want to highlight some language that was added in here. So on page 1 of their subgrantee contract, under payment 4A, I've included in the last sentence, invoices and supporting documentation, including CAP 60 income reports for clients served, shall be submitted in sufficient detail to ensure that payments may be made in conformance and compliance with the subgrantee contract. Payments may be withheld until all supporting documentation is received. And then if I go on to page 5, or I'm sorry, page 6, I have under section 8D, audit and access to records. The county agency and its representatives shall have access to any books, documents, papers, electronic data, and records of the contractor, which are pertinent to the subgrantee contract. The contractor shall immediately, upon receiving written instruction from the county or agency, provide any independent auditor or accountant all books, documents, papers, electronic data, and records of the contractor which are pertinent to the subgrantee contract. And then finally, last point is in the back of these contracts, we have kind of like, you have all that legal stuff in the first part, but all culminates to what's called a statement of work, kind of like ultimately what you're going to be graded on. That is summarized in the very back under the statement of work. There's 3 pages. You have, the award, what's expected in terms of services. But I wanted to point out under item 6 of the statement of work that the county shall monitor the contract on site at least once annually, which I perform. And I also could do desk monitoring of the vouchers, at least in the first 3 months, to look at client eligibility and that they're real people. And then finally, number 17 in the statement of work, submit by March 31st, 2023, an organization-wide financial report for the prior year comprised of audited financial statements that shows the statements of financial position and related statements of activities, cash flows for the years then ended, and the related notes to the financial statements. Clearly, I didn't create that wording, but you're going to understand the point that this is important language for you as a commission when we're passing money through. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions about this grant. So to clarify, you're ratifying the main contract and approving the subgrantee contracts as written in your cheat sheet. Okay.
Thanks, Christina, and thank you for looking out for the county's well-being as we try to attend to and pass through this money that's so very needed and beneficial to our community. Much appreciated. Questions from Ms. Marshall?
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Lloyd.
Yeah, I'm the county commissioner representative on the tripartite board, and I just want to commend the board for the diligence and conversation, because I think as we approach these fundings, there's a lot of staff out there in the community, let's just be honest, that created some of the issues and discussion of how we oversight. And I think you heard some of Ms. Marshall's additional language we put into some of the contracts and those things. And I really think that group did a great job in focusing on people's needs, but also protecting the county. So I just think that group and that board did a great job of diligence and in discussing the issues.
Thank you. Other comments? Then what is your pleasure, commissioners?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Shanefield.
I'll make a motion to ratify the federal fiscal year 2023 Community Services Block Grant contract and approve and authorize the chairman to sign the sub-grantee contracts for Rock Springs Young at Heart, Sweetwater County School District Number 1, Sweetwater Family Resource Center, and YWCA of Sweetwater County.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Ooh, look at that, Commissioner Wendland getting in. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Any opposed? Excellent. Christina, we get you one more.
Great. This is the fun one, I think, that you're going to have to be awake on this one. Drink your coffee because I'm throwing in a lot of extra notes in this one. So you might think that Christmas has arrived and we'll see. So, okay. Local Assistance and Tribal Consistency Fund, you know, the world of funding has acronyms and nicknames. So I'm going to try to be clear, but please stop me whenever you have a question. So going back down memory lane, on March 11th, 2021, the United States Congress passed the American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA, of 2021 to quote unquote speed up the county's recovery from the economic and health effects of the COVID-19 pandemic and the ongoing recession. It is also known as the COVID-19 stimulus package. Refresh your memory, it was a $1 trillion package. 350 billion of that was for what was the local recovery funding, which we have affectionately called our ARPA money in-house. And today we're talking about $2 billion out of that fund, which is the consistency fund, which we have also nicknamed the ARPA PILT. Okay. So in section 605 of the act is the Local Assistance and Tribal Consistency Fund, which is a general revenue enhancement program. It provides assistance to revenue sharing counties that participate in the payment in lieu of taxes program, PILT, and the refuge revenue sharing program. So those two programs make us an eligible entity to receive this funding. Then on top of that, remember, payment in lieu of taxes deals with federal acreage and population. But in addition to that, to look at the methodology in determining distributions for the consistency fund, they included poverty rates, median household income, land values, unemployment rates, even childhood poverty and population over the last 20 years. And I know that you all have been in suspense trying to see how much will the county get. Back 6 months ago, Congress tried taking money out of this pot to fund a new COVID package that failed. So it's pretty exciting that I'm here talking to you about this. This money can be used for most governmental purposes, except for lobbying or, your campaigns. So, and US Treasury can actually recoup it. And I mean, I can't emphasize that enough. A lot of people have stars in their eyes when they see money, but there is a significant compliance process where money can be taken back. You can be found in non-compliance, which in our discussions with our auditors, we're finding out all the time right now. So this funding is subject to certain provisions of the 2 CFR Part 200. That is that famous acronym for the uniform guidance in all your federal contracts. We have to comply with federal grant administration, federal cost principles, and audits by accepting this money. So today, you are being asked to assign specific expenditures to this funding so that it can be reported and tested for compliance in the county's audit. So now I have a lot of notes to talk to you about here, so bear with me. So county was awarded under the Consistency Fund $7,382,404.74. So basically just under 7.4 million. I'm very happy to say after the last meeting, Commissioner Wendling came in my office. We applied for the funding for the first half, which they are quote unquote calling the fiscal year 22 allocation. That amount is just under 3.7 million. We have it in our bank account today. So congratulations. The second half of another almost 3.7 will be received next year. Now, interestingly, if you don't apply for this funding in January, you will be relinquishing it. So it was great to get that out of the way. In comparison to PILT, and I don't like to deviate from my write-ups that much, but I know it's very interesting because you all thought, what are we going to get and all that? So remember, our regular PILT comes in June, and we defer it into the next year's budget. So for example, in our fiscal year 22 audit that we're working on right now, we deferred fiscal year 21 PILT. That PILT amount was just under 3.5 million, to put it in perspective. Last year's PILT that came in June, on the day that you approved the budget, it came in at 3.672 million, almost the exact same amount, which I find very interesting. You all had budgeted for regular PILT, the precedence, which was just about 3.5 million, meaning that already just on that revenue stream alone, it's almost 175,000 more in regular PILT, which, as you know, a lot of times turns into your cash carryover. So anyhow, back to ARPA PILT. We have to assign expenses. You can't just put it in your fund, or you're leaving your entire general fund subject to federal audit and compliance, and we don't want to do that. So what I did is, in your packet, I've attached your approved budget for fiscal year 23. And I'd like to point out that in the budget, Bonnie actually put in an estimated 1.5 million in ARPA PILT. I guess that was between you all, but that was just a place marker. So basically, we have received over 2 million more than what was budgeted. We have to assign or classify expenditures. So my recommendation is to use it for an allowable expense, which is general government operations, totaling 4.2 million. And it's purposely over because you just don't know what's going to happen, but it's for payroll and benefits, which we actually do with our PILT money. If you look at our budget message, you'll see that there's departments assigned. You have to try to narrow it down so it can be tested for compliance. And you think, well, what's there to test? Just come in my office. We'll chat about it. You can have fake employees. You don't know why there's raises. You don't, there's a lot involved in it, but there's 3 departments that are very special to all of us. Road and Bridge, and does a lot for the public, but facilities custodial. I don't think we ever ran out of toilet paper during COVID. And then facilities maintenance. It just happened that those numbers all fit this total. So I just want to point out a couple more things. The second allocation payment again will be discussed during the budget workshop for fiscal year 24. And I cannot emphasize enough that ARPA PILT and regular PILT are 2 totally pots of money that have different requirements. They both have different CFDA numbers, which is the catalog of federal domestic assistance. I report it in our audit differently. And I will have to report on this ARPA PILT money until we expend it fully, just like with our regular ARPA. ARPA PILT, and our recovery funding, which we call ARPA, all have different federal assistance catalog numbers. And, just as a side point, you were awarded just over 8.2 million in regular ARPA funding and have strategically earmarked parts of that for strategic planning and getting some major projects done. And there's a balance of 5.6 million available in that one too. So that's all I have. Do you have any questions for me? So.
Thank you, Christina.
Good job.
I think that, just for explanation for the public, I guess, or a reminder to us, we started calling it ARPA PILT because it was going to be, or ended up being, based on something kind of like the ARPA formula.
Yeah,
So
the eligibility.
So that's how we got, it is totally different, but and there were many iterations of the plan of how it was going to be divided and spent and things. So, so yeah, that's how we came up with the ARPA PILT. So we all know what we're talking about, but it's kind of goofy. Questions for Ms. Marshall?
Good
Commissioner
job,
Schoenfeld.
as usual. There aren't too many questions after you get through.
Christina, I do have a question. So the additional amount, the 4.212 million in the benefits and payroll as well. I mean, it's all built into the budget, but so is that in addition to what we'd already budgeted potentially out of reserves or things like that?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Shanefield. So the 4.2 in expenses was already built into the budget. One of the concerns I've always had is the word supplanting.
That was my next question.
And actually, there is no level of effort, compliance element in this funding, so it's okay to do that.
Yeah.
In fact, we could go back to March 11th, 2021, and use this money, apply it, and we'd really just be throwing it into our reserves, which you don't want to do. I know this will create some cash carryover, but you don't know how your other revenues or streams are going to come in. So that's why we can do it this way. But great question.
Thank you.
Did I answer it okay?
Yeah.
Okay, we could do it.
I didn't want to say the word supplanting.
It's level of
But-
effort and matching, but
Right?
well, put it this way, the regular ARPA money, that's how all these entities just put it in their budgets. And there's different tiers of requirements. A lot of the local cities and towns in Wyoming, they didn't even have to report on it. It all went through the state. So, but you're correct. Thank you.
Good. Other questions or comments? Then with that,
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Wendling,
I'll make a motion to move to classify the first local assistant and tribal consistency fund payment for fiscal year 2023 salaries, wages, taxes, and benefits for the Road and Bridge Department, facilities, custodial department, and the facilities maintenance department.
Thank
And
you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Mr. Chairman, I would be glad to second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Christina.
Yeah.
As always, excellent work, and we appreciate you making us look as smart as you possibly can, which is not an easy task for me at least. So
You can understand grants. You've come a long way. Thank
good
you.
job. Much appreciated. Before we move on to tab F with Mr. Zimmerman, we'd like to recognize our job shadowers today. And if you guys will put you on the spot, come up and introduce yourselves. Al, you can go first, right? And tell us what in the world you're doing here.
Okay, so I'm Ella Brewster. And we're from the FLA. We're juniors and we're job shadowing. Should I say something?
Where else have you been?
So we're in rotations right now. So we have 8 rotations for 16 weeks. And my group, we've been to Rock Springs Fire so far and the Aviation Center. And it's been super cool to learn about all the different jobs. And yeah, it's kind of cool to be here. Would have had no idea this is what you guys do in these meetings, but
We
It's a
wonder
cool
ourselves.
experience.
We wonder ourselves sometimes what we do. Great. Thanks, Ella. And the rest of you, each one can come up, just introduce yourselves. And
Hi, my name is Christian Espinoza. Same thing. I'm part of the FLA or APS now, as they changed it. And yeah, pretty much we're here for today. We were told beforehand that you guys would have a meeting for this, for today, for this month. And yeah, not too much to say.
thank you. Good work.
My name is Tanner Thompson and I'm from the APS too, and I'm pretty excited to see what you guys do.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Shyla Glover, and I think we're all just pretty excited to see how you guys budget and everything that you guys do here.
You get to write a paper or anything after this?
We just have notes that we have to take.
Very good. That going well so far? Good, okay. If you have any questions, you can ask Commissioner Shanefield.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I would just encourage you to go to our website, Sweetwater County Commission, if you haven't already. All of our agendas, our minutes, our YouTube meetings are there, and also the law that explains what our job is.
I should read that. Okay, just kidding. Thank you. Thanks for being here. We do have donuts for you guys next door, so on the break or whenever you head on over. Tab F. Chief Zimmerman, tell us what's going on.
Chairman Smith, commissioners, good morning.
Morning.
Good to see you. Excited to share with you our update for the fire season. This is something that you guys made a decision on in months back, and it was a tough decision. And we're here to let you know how things are going. So I'd like to draw your attention to the spreadsheet that I have in your package. This is something I put together so that it would be on one sheet that I could explain some of these things to you. So what we have there is we have a breakdown of the months, and then we have the cooperating fire agencies, which are Fire District Number 1, Green River Fire Department, and Wamsutter. So what you see divided into there and underneath Fire District 1 is the seasonals. That would be the 2 wildland trucks that we provided to Fire District 1 and the 8 seasonals that worked all summer long. And so that's that first column, and that would be their salaries that you see represented there. Then you have the 3 areas, Fire District 1, Green River Fire, and Wamsutter, their fire calls. Those are the active charges that we have been submitted and we've paid. If you look to the right, then we have the totals. So you can look at the months and you can see roughly during the fire season with the seasonals in there, we're running anywhere from $48,000 to $55,000 a month for all those charges. When the seasonals are done, they were finished the 10th, I think, the 10th of September. So they're done. So now it's going to drop back. We're going to be somewhere between, 18 to 25,000 a month, depends on accidents and fire calls. The season, with all the fire chiefs represented back here, I don't want to misquote anything, but I would imagine the season's pretty well done with the first snowfall. Wouldn't you say? We're getting a nod of the head, probably. They generally say it's going to be November-ish is the end of the fire season. We will see additional charges come in because of the accidents on I-80. And that's the next thing I want to draw to your attention. If you look at the bottom half of the spreadsheet, what I've done is I separated the calls. And this is interesting because we didn't have this information before. So this is something we really wanted to gather during this situation. So what you'll see is during these months that the cooperating agencies have been active, you're going to see the number of calls they've had. And it's an eye opener. You're looking at, on the monthly totals, you're looking anywhere from 17 to 22 calls a month. But what you're seeing down at the bottom is I divided a split. So you're going to see how many calls they had for fire and how many calls they had for crash or accidents, generally I-80, but anywhere in their service area. So I think it's an interesting number as you go over all the way to the right. We've, out of the 94 total calls we've had in this represented time, 30 were fire and 64 were accidents. So it gives us a good idea what the response is, what the calls have been, what the incidences have been. And then at the very bottom, I have a cost split. So it gives you an idea. Fire District 1 is a little lower. Again, they've had seasonals, they've had trucks, and they're not going to charge for any of the time for our trucks that we provided from the county, and the seasonals were paying their salary. So that's why theirs is a little lower per call, but you can get a good idea on that. I'll be open for questions on what I've done as far as, bringing all this together and paying these invoices and bringing it to the board. And then what I want to let you be aware of is we have our cooperating agencies represented here this morning, and they're here to answer questions from the commissioners, seeing that this is the first time we've been before you with active information. So what we have back here is we have Chief Dusty Davis from Wamsutter, Assistant Chief Jesus Chavez from Wamsutter. Over here we have, of course, Chief Scott Kitchener from Fire District 1. We have Bill Robinson, Larry Erdman, our Assistant Fire Chiefs from Green River, and to my surprise, Chris Meets, the CFO for Green River, is here. He actually crunches the numbers for Green River. So we're here and we're available for questions. So I want to open that up to the commissioners. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate the update, Jim, and the work here on this and keeping track of things we hadn't before. So much appreciated, and questions the commissioners may have.
Mr. Chairman, I have one question that doesn't relate exactly to this, but how did BLM fit into this? Did they respond to any fires in the county this season? I know they are a partner, but not directly with the county.
Yeah, commissioners, chairman, commissioners. BLM responds on all wildland fires, no matter where they are, whether it's in Wamsutter's area, our area, Green River's area, anything outside, because of a lot of the checkerboard areas.
Right.
They just don't know if it's public or private land. So they respond on everything that goes out there. So yeah, the BLM was probably out on every single one of the wildland fires that our agencies were out on.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Commissioner Shanefield.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. First of all, I want to thank you all for being here today, and coming to present, and I'm excited to hear this update. Really, I'd like to know overall, how the relationships are going and how the response time's going, and overall the seamlessness of what's happening. I think that was one of our major concerns, was to ensure that all of our communities had efficient responses and that there weren't any hiccups in that manner as well. So I don't know who wants to answer that or if all of you have an input to that, but I'm really curious.
I saw the hand.
I did, absolutely.
Point at Scott, but yeah, I saw.
Jim has taken delegation in his leadership position well. Hey, you.
Chairman, commissioners, everything on our end, it seems to be going well. So we'll just continue the way we're going. Response times are the same. BLM's been on everything we've had outside, especially in the county areas. So we haven't missed a beat, just missing all the fires. They're just not here yet. So.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question specific to Mr. Robinson or the Green River Fire.
Take it easy.
So, been waiting all morning on this, Mr. Robinson. So so my question is, one of the things when we went into this contract, the concern was the number, we knew how many of your calls would be specific more to the vehicle crash. One of the concerns was how are all those been legitimate crashes, or have we been doing like what we were concerned of in the ambulance following just as backup, and were we charged for those? Because that was one of our concerns.
Every crash we've been to is a legitimate crash. Sometimes we get out there and they're not injuries, but we still have to deal with the vehicles as well. So of course we roll with Castle Rock everywhere. So
yeah, thank you.
Been legit. Yeah.
We like legit. Good.
So do we.
Thank you.
It was an easy one, but
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Sure.
Chief Davis.
Morning, Dusty. Morning, Commissioners, Chairman. I actually turn on our side of it. I think some of it's actually improved some of our response area where we're actually now staffing personnel instead of all volunteer. So that's helped a lot of that on our response side of it. Call wise, we've had anything that was BLM or on BLM land. BLM was there with us. I think Jesus turn, I'd probably give more liberate. As everybody knows, with me turning on stepping over finishing the mayor's side of it, I kind of stepped away from the fire side of it and let Jesus kind of run with it this summer, and he's done a good job and stuff. So you got anything to add, Jesus, or?
Chairman, Commissioners, good morning. I think we've improved a lot, being volunteer and now having staff. The response times too. We are a little bit more out on I-80 more than anything. It's because of the fact that we're just right there. So that's mainly most of our calls. And Wyoming too. We weren't out much this year, but I think we're creating good relations, even better relationships with our other neighbor agencies. So I think we're on the right track with this. So,
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
yes,
How is it working with Carbon County and that interaction? I know you're close to the line there. So do they come on some of the fires or?
So the way we do it, we're pretty close. There are, Sweetwater County ends at mile marker 200. After that, then it's Carbon County. If it's closer if the call is closer on that side, then we will, request them instead of Sweetwater, because that's a long drive. This summer we had a call where it was right there on the line between Sweetwater and Carbon County, and we had Fire District number 1 page, and it was 130 miles for them. So that's when we request Carbon County, so they, it'll save most of the cost for that.
How is the dispatch working? Do the calls go into Carbon or do they come into Sweetwater? Yeah.
Actually, part of our calls, it hits both. Depends on what cell tower it hits. Part of them go into Carbon, part of them go into Sweetwater. There's really we haven't seen any real big, it's basically normal. If it goes to Sweetwater, they take the data and then transfer it over. And so there's
That works
several,
out.
it works. And
Good.
there's been several calls this year when I called over to Central Dispatch to let them know we're going out. They didn't even have any record of it. So it went to Carbon County. And so they were informed at that time as well. So.
Do they serve Bear Oil or do you also go to Bear Oil sometime? It's a long ways for you, I know.
We've ended up, twice this year up in that area. So
And then Carbon County also helps cover that barrel oil side of it as well. So
Thank you. Good job.
And thanks for representing us well at the train fire, I guess we had a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. That was sounded like getting a little heat from UP and everything. So appreciate you guys doing that. Not an easy one.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Lloyd.
I just want to make a comment. I've been the Jim's fire point of contact, and because of that, I've actually personally checked out and have had conversations with both Chief Erdman and Chief Robinson throughout the summer. And I've bothered Scott Kitchener also throughout the summer. Then also Dusty and I have had conversations just to make sure we're, everything's going in a positive direction. And I think when we first made this transition, it was a big transition. And we had multiple meetings where every agency was there, including BLM and the city of Rock Springs being part of those discussions. And we've even seen Granger's Fire Department have representation too. And I think through those beginning meetings, we were able to troubleshoot and work together through some of the problems and concerns that have come up. And I think I can say that fairly. Do you guys all agree? And no one's shaking their head no yet, so I must be right. But I saw some really good things happening, like us all getting on BLM radio and having consistency on there, which was something that wasn't in the past and such like that. So I want to commend these guys, and I want to commend Jim for, taking a leadership role and getting these meetings organized and using our resources, because the guys we have in this room are great resources, but then also within our BLM ranks, like Frank Keeler and then Jim Walmsley. And I know Scott Polson's been in some of those meetings, and their leadership. I've seen some really good progress, and I want to thank you guys for your efforts and energy to make this transition successful. So I don't want to give you guys as much credit as I can, and Jim, but Jim's done a great job stepping into this role. So thank you very much, Jim. So I just want to comment that I think it's important that we note how much time and consideration and meetings these guys were doing to make this transition happen.
Thank you, Commissioner Wendling. Chief Kitchener.
Morning, Chief.
Morning, Chairman Smith. I almost called you Chief. Chairman Smith, Commissioners.
Would like that. You'd like that, yeah.
I'm glad that you have it sometimes.
For a while, yeah.
I'll use that.
I just want to speak on behalf of our program with the seasonals, and that I feel that program went really well this year. Well, we were lucky that we had a pretty slow season, so we were able to ease into it. We had a combination of some county people that came over and some of our people and then a couple of people we just hired off the street as new kids. And luckily they've also, they want to come back next year. And we've had 3 of them that are actually going to join the department. So it's actually worked out really well. I think if anything, it's really strengthened the relationships that we've already had. We've always had a strong relationship with Green River Fire and Wamsutter and the BLM. So, but if anything, I think it's really strengthened it because we all were on the same page and wanted to make sure it was successful. And I think it was. I think it was very successful this year. Like I said, with the slow season, we were able to ease into it. So that helped out a lot. So the seasonal program went well. As far as working with each other, it went great. We were all on the same page. Working with Attorney De Leon and Mr. Zimmerman and Gary McLean and all that, the commissioners and that, Roy Lloyd and that. I think it all went really well. We all wanted it to succeed, and so far it has. I can't think of any hiccups or any issues or problems that we've had throughout the summer, and everything's going really well. And don't see the reason why it won't continue to go well. So
awesome. Questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Tom?
I just want to thank all of you for attending the meetings. Roy and I attended with all of you over 45 hours worth of meetings, but we couldn't have gathered the data without the help of our staff. Gene Legursky and Gary McLean put it all together for us. And I just want to shout out to them. They're much appreciated. And I know you spent a lot of time helping us gather the data to get to this. So thank you very much.
I know it was a hard decision for the commissioners to make, but I think the proof is in the pudding. It's working, and it's I would say the service has improved, if anything.
Thank you. Jim, back to you.
Anything else, commissioners? We're not asking for any kind of motion or anything.
No.
I would like to take this time to thank my fellow brothers in arms back here. I appreciate them. So I've gotten in a relationship with most of all of them really through my fire inspection duties. So I know that was taken into consideration when I was named to this position. But Since then, I've gotten with them more and more and more and have grown that relationship. I also want to thank Eric for working with me on these additional duties. He's given me the luxury and, we've been having to really balance things. And I wanted to thank him for that. I appreciate his help and all of your support. Thank you so much. If there's nothing else, I will let you go.
Thanks, Jimmy.
Thanks.
Eric, too.
I'll
Thank you.
wrap up. Jim was saying, thank you before stepping into a difficult position and making it work. And I know it's taken a lot of time and effort, maybe even some out of the comfort zone. But yeah, thanks for supporting the decision that this commission made to move forward with this. All around, much appreciated.
I think we should give him a hand.
Very good. We're on to tab G. We can take a break, yeah. Quarter till, 10-minute, good. All right, 9:45, we will return to carry on with tab G. And for our high school friends, there's some donuts in there. Call this meeting back to order and we move on to tab G. And we have Bailey Doctor with us, an update on progress on our countywide ambulance service. Welcome, Bailey.
Thank you. Today I have Cheryl Rixey with me. Cheryl is our ambulance director. She's been with Castle Rock for 8 years. She's a paramedic and she's stepping up to really help us with this huge project. Somebody mentioned earlier, it was like slow season for people. We have not experienced a slow season in EMS. So she's been very, very busy. So thank you, Cheryl, for everything that you're doing to help us stand this new service up. Since we were here in July, I, wanted to come back and give you an update and let you know what our progress has been today. And really, that's all that I'm here to talk to you about. We don't need a motion or anything from you. So we, first thing after we met with you in July, we hosted some town hall meetings for staff with Sweetwater Medics so that we could update them on the benefits that people were going to be eligible for if they applied to work at Castle Rock. We talked to them about the entire plan, to expand ambulance countywide, at least in Green River and in Rock Springs, and talked to them about having 3 staffed ambulances. So there are kind of a lot of questions about, how we were going to do that, schedules, pay, those kinds of things. So we began, by just letting people know that we knew we needed about 26 and a half FTEs to staff 3 full-time ambulances. And the plan is to have 2 full-time ambulances staffed in Rock Springs, 1 full-time staffed in Green River, and then we'll have backup in both communities. So we worked with Ron Gaddy, the current owner for Sweetwater Medics, and he helped us by disclosing what their wages are, not per person, but just kind of their general wage scale so that we could be competitive when we were trying to recruit people to come and work for the service. And we determined through that process that we were going to give 1 to 3% raises. Ron gave a pretty substantial raise in June. And so beyond that, we decided that we were going to be able to do, the range was 1 to 3%, but we also offered a $2,000 signing bonus, and we allowed staff that currently work for Sweetwater Medics to start accruing paid time off immediately. Currently, our staff at Castle Rock have to wait their probationary period 90 days, but we decided to waive that for Sweetwater Medics staff. We are also offering 48-hour shifts with an 8-hour rest period. So one thing that we heard kind of from those town hall meetings was we have several staff that work outside of the community that come in to provide EMS in Sweetwater County. And we wanted to be able to retain those people if they chose to work for us. So we did our best. Cheryl worked with us and with Safe Tech to come up with a great schedule for people that kind of met both needs. We prioritize patient safety because, fatigue and long shifts, when you're working 100 hours at a time, patient safety is a big concern for us at Castle Rock, as well as burnout for staff. So there's a balance there. And we feel like that longer 40 hours, they'll work a 24, break for 8, and then work another 16. That kind of allows them to come in, get their hours done and go back home, but also get some rest in there as well. So that was our plan moving forward. We did procure 2 new ambulances and 1 transport van as well. So those are all ready to go. And so we'll have a total fleet of 7 to 8 that allows for the full-time ambulances. It also allows for, when one is out on maintenance, it allows us to go on fires outside of the community. Those are good revenue generating plans when we're able to do that. We did that last summer and it brought in quite a bit of money. So that would save the commissioners money that way. So starting on August 23rd, we did our first interview. We did our last interview on September 27th and made our first offers on September 29th. We, I'm happy to say, are now fully staffed. Moving forward, the service will have our director running right now 3/4 time on an ambulance and our assistant director running 3/4 time. I'd really like to cut that back a little bit. I'd like to see Cheryl running 1/4 to half time on an ambulance. So we do still need to hire 2 to 3 people just to help cover vacations, get our director some more admin time. But otherwise, right now we're fully staffed going into it. We also have a lease offer from Ron Gaddy to lease his current space, which is the short-term plan. I'm reviewing that lease. Right now, he sent it to me on Friday. So we'll get that back over to him if we decide to move forward with that. So that, you know, is a good short-term plan. Long-term, we're going to be in a different location, hopefully. And, you know, I can update you all on that in a few months. And then also just wanted to let you know, we are planning to have in-house coding and billing. I think Medix outsources theirs now. We will be hiring someone and training them to do all of our coding and billing in-house. It works really well for the ambulance service as is, but we need more people to do that. And then we're also working closely with the state. The state is well aware, the state EMS office is well aware of this regionalization plan for Sweetwater County, and they've really stepped up to help us as well. They're planning some more trainings, working really closely with Cheryl to make sure that this transition is seamless. So they're going to come in and do inspections on radios and vehicles and those kinds of things so that this can kind of go off without a hitch. Initially our plan was the beginning of December to make this transition, and we're looking at November 21st, which is a little earlier. If we can make it happen as early as November 7th, we would like to see that happen. We are seeing that we're going on some more calls in Rock Springs, and we're taking about one transport, maybe a little bit more than that on average per day from the hospital. So we would like to start as soon as possible. We're definitely incented to do that. November 7th is 3 weeks away, so it gives me a little bit of a panic attack, but definitely by the 21st. So I don't know if there's need in your contract with Sweetwater Medics to give 30-day notice. That could happen if that's the case. So just letting you know that. And also, if you have any questions, please let me know.
I do.
Okay, sure.
You mentioned 26 and a half FTEs.
Yes.
What would have been previously combined? Is it more than?
Less.
It's less. What do you know what it was?
Currently, we have in Sweetwater County, there's about 22. So we've moved some people up to full-time that were working part-time. So the new service will have them working full-time. And the coverage that we'll have in Rock Springs actually will be more paramedics. So every call will have an ALS person on it, whether it's a paramedic or an intermediate. So I'm not exactly sure what the staffing mix looked like a year ago, but right now we're looking at about 22.
And that was for medics. What Castle Rock?
Yeah, that's Medics and Castle Rock combined right now. So we'll have 4 more people providing service in the county starting November 21st.
Okay. Other question was the EMS Stabilization Grant. Have you seen anything from that? I know that
Yeah.
Hospital Association was just going to send out money that they'd allocated through the Department of Health to stabilize EMS.
I haven't seen anything from that come through. There is the Regionalization Grant. Yeah, that we could apply for. I'm waiting on some feedback from the director for the Department of Health to figure out how we do that, whether that's the county or whether that's Castle Rock that applies for that. I'm not sure. We might need to work together to do that, but there's matching funds that are a part of that. But the state has been allocated $10 million for regionalization of ambulance services. So
yeah,
that would be a great.
Wouldn't that?
Yeah.
That'd be a great start for us.
Yeah.
Good. And I think that Director Johansson said to get with Dirk.
I did yesterday.
Okay.
Yeah.
He didn't.
He's out of the office. I got an auto reply, but I'll stay on him. Yep.
All good. Thank you. Other questions?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Commissioner Shanefield.
Thank you. Thank you, Bailey, for the update. I appreciate it. I wanted to go back to, you said that every call would have a paramedic. So in the beginning, there was conversation and there's been some rumors through the community there won't be the same level of care. So I just want you to go into a little bit more detail around that.
Sure.
We've had conversation around that, but I want the public to understand.
Sure. So just to be clear, every call will have either a paramedic or an EMT intermediate, which is the highest level of EMT that you can have in the state. Yeah, I think there was some concern that if we did this, that we were going to drop to more of a BLS service, which is not going to be the case. There was some confusion, I think, back when that Castle Rock was just a BLS service, which has never been the case. We've always been an ALS service and will continue to be. So yeah, we're ready for that. There are some calls that don't require a paramedic or an intermediate. And some of those transports that I was talking about earlier that are coming out of Memorial Hospital, we will just send, not just, basics are also very important. So we will send a basic on some of those calls if it's not necessary. But as far as the fully staffed 911 crews, those will all be ALS.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah.
Other questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Tolman.
I have a question as to how you're going to interact with the rural areas like Farson and Daggett County. I've
Sure.
gotten several calls from Daggett County, concerns that patients are not going to get as speedy of a service if they have to wait for you to go there. And the fact that McKinnon's used to having Manila respond. So if you could just respond to that and how you're going to do Farson.
As far as the outlying communities outside of Rock Springs and Green River, nothing is going to change from what has happened historically. So with Daggett County, the hospital district border is basically to the state line. And we've always responded out there. If we need intercept and if we need help, we can call them to, engage that service. Typically with smaller communities, what we've seen is, we kind of prefer to keep those services ourselves because it's difficult for smaller communities to keep EMTs. And so what we've seen actually is the reverse, where we're responding into Daggett County quite a bit, over the last several years. That was the case. And so I know they have more staff now than they did. I think they have 1 or 1.5 more people, which is great. But as far as that goes, we'll continue to work closely with them and make sure that there aren't any significant delays for patients and make sure that the areas are covered. As far as Farson goes, I haven't heard anything from Farson as far as a need, but that's certainly something that we can talk to them about in the future if they, I'm not sure. As far as I understand, that service is totally volunteer.
It is. That's why I was concerned. Sometimes they can't respond.
If that's the case, we'll have 2 staffed ambulances and we're going to keep track very closely as far as where we're having to respond to. And if we need to staff up to a 4th ambulance, we'll do that. It's just getting the people. But I do think having this kind of more stable and having a plan for the future, increasing wages for EMTs and paramedics is really going to start to attract people to this career. I think it's been kind of difficult for people to plan on going into EMS in the community. And I do think it's a really good, they'll have a retirement plan, great benefits and, good pay. So I think this will look a lot different in a year and hopefully we could staff up if we needed to start responding in person. We could do that. We're not ready to do that now, but that's certainly something we could talk about in the future.
Will you be doing an agreement with Daggett County, any kind of MOU or anything, understanding?
We have one. Yeah, we have one that is in place. And it basically says, it kind of just sets up the borders and says that we'll rely on each other if we need to. Daggett County did reach out and had asked if we could change the borders. And we responded to them and said we'd kind of prefer to keep it as is for now, just because we didn't want to overwhelm that system either. And yeah, kind of what we've seen in the past is we want to make sure that their EMTs are going to stay, I guess, in the community. And before we made any major changes like that, kind of like, if it's not broke, don't fix it type thing.
Thank you. I think there are 4 high schoolers behind you that are glad to hear about the community or the increased care and better job opportunities.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. If you guys want to be EMTs.
These 2 are the ones to talk to.
Yeah.
Other questions you may have, Commissioners?
Commissioner Smith, a couple of questions.
Commissioner Lloyd.
So I guess, Bailey, it's really exciting to hear the progression, but, and I want to thank you. We've had constant conversations. I think we can say for the last 4 or 5 months, as you've moved this direction, I appreciate your consistent communication. What's your plans to roll the information of how these changes are going to affect the community out to the community? Because I think as we make the change, I think that's going to be the biggest concern. People from Rock Springs are going to want to know and hear what you told us today, that, hey, there will still be 2 ambulances over there. And the majority of medic staff is actually staying on. So what's your plan to roll out the information to the communities to help put some minds at ease?
Yeah, thank you. We have started planning a combined kind of celebration, like dinner barbecue with the 2 services to bring people together. And during that time, I do want to invite, the press and have everybody come that has been part of this process. And I think then we can do kind of a press release, inform the community of what the plan is, and then also just showing up with our ambulances is going to be a big deal. So people are going to start to see green and white ambulances more in Rock Springs, and that'll, I think word of mouth will help as well. But for the most part, we do want to do a press release before this goes out. You'll see that coming out probably here in the next couple of weeks.
And then,
Or anything else you want me to do. That's, if you think that there's, yeah.
I just think that'd be beneficial. And I think just having that information out there and having it come from you than other sources, I think that's important. And then, and you did tell me, if I remember right, the majority of current Sweetwater medic staff is coming over, correct?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like 95% of their staff are coming over. Mhm.
I think those answer my questions today, but I can also say I probably throw at least 3 at you a week.
I know,
so,
yeah. I
So
can
yeah.
think of all the questions you've been asking me lately and just, yeah.
Thank you. Anything else, Commissioner Wendling?
Chairman,
Yes.
November 21st. Big day,
Big day.
if not sooner.
Yes.
What do we need to do for contract? It's obvious that if that's the day of takeover,
Mm-hmm.
starting with you and finishing with another, we need to work with our
Yeah.
assistant county attorney
Mm-hmm.
and get a new contract. I mean, not new, but
Change the dates.
change the dates and do the revisions that are necessary and
Yeah.
costs and that. So
Mhm.
has there been any conversations along that line, or what do we need to do facilitate that?
I think it's pretty simple. I mean, I think we can amend the contract to change the dates, but as far as your contract with Sweetwater Medics, if it's the same as ours, you need to give them 30-day notice.
Well, it's pretty tough for us to do it until we really have something in hand from you.
Yeah. Well, I can give that to you today if you want.
Well, we'd like,
Yeah.
my preference would be is I would like to have something ready we can act on at the next meeting.
Okay, perfect.
And that way, then part of that action will be notifying Sweetwater Medics as well. So John, you'll have 2 letters. Probably one for sure, one to Sweetwater Medics. And then, of course, the contract with you guys for whatever date and time with dollars and stuff. Okay.
And Medics is aware of the November 21st date.
I know they do.
So
I know
yeah.
they are, but
yeah.
let's
But,
make
yeah.
sure we make the movement and make sure we do it right here and
Okay.
have it taken care of. Thank you.
Mr. De Leon Soanity has already sent us an email with the sample. So contract minutes. So thank you. Any other questions or comments? Bailey's been a long road. I can't wait for some kind of end or beginning. I don't know how we look at it. I guess beginning is probably the better way to look at it. So very excited for that. And thank you for all the work. Thank you, Cheryl, as well. Been a ton of work that you've taken on and really appreciate it.
Sure. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
this goes well beyond the time the 5 of us have sat at this table.
For sure.
A long time, and I think it's beginning to the start to answering what ambulance service for the county is going to look like and provide opportunities for even expanding that regionalization countywide and that type of thing. And I hope at some point in time it'll involve conversations of what we talked about in further beliefs, which was fire ambulance combined and central site, and make it good for everybody. I truly believe that with there'll be some cost savings just because of the makeup of your organization running it versus private, and that type of thing. So it'll be proofs in the pudding. I'm still not sold on another arena that there's all that savings, but time will tell. And this one will be as well, but it's a start and we can move into that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for your work.
Thank you, Bailey. Much appreciated. We have a amendment on our agenda to discuss holiday hours regarding courthouse hours and also holidays for employees of the county. Commissioner Wendling.
Thank you. Historically, we do have the conversations about this time of the year for what we want to do for county employees. See you, gentlemen. Thank you. Take care. And that conversation in the past has been, what are the hours, first of all, going to be for our employees over the holidays? And I think it primarily focuses on Christmas and New Year's, depending on how that day falls.
Both are on a Sunday this year, and so
Yeah,
the
so
holiday will be Monday.
will be Monday and that type of thing. So Thanksgiving takes care of itself. I believe we have that taken care of. But then, of course, next question is based on those days. Historically, if those days weren't on a weekend, we looked at some possibility of closing the courthouse, which we're not really in favor of. You know, want to keep it open to our people. So we talked about floating holidays pay, or even a bonus for our employees and that type of thing. So I just would like to bring that up, and it's conversations that we need to have and kind of a direction we need to work with Mr. McLean. But 1st November's our next meeting, and our employees do, you know, we need to let them know if there's a plan we have in place for them for over the holidays, primarily Thanksgiving and New Year's. Mr. Chairman.
Do you have a suggestion for us to
Oh,
consider a recommendation?
I always have suggestions.
That's what I thought. You wouldn't have brought it up if you didn't have a
Yeah,
good
I
idea.
know.
So
I always have suggestions. Of course, you know, by now, if you haven't figured it out, I'm a big one on the fact that our employees are way behind on where their salaries are based on where everybody else is, cost of living and everything. We've talked about that. And especially what just came out in the last 2 weeks or last week from feds of granting us Social Security recipients a 8.7% cost of living increase. So you take and add that to what our employees are behind. They're quite a ways behind. I'm not promoting a cost of living increase for a holiday, but I would promote a bonus for them. But the reason I bring up the cost of living is they are behind. The raises we've given elected officials as well as department heads over the years has far exceeded what our employees hourly have received regarding cost of living raises and that type of thing. And it seems as though those are the individuals that are left behind in the dust in most businesses and most places. So my suggestion, and don't decide right now unless you're ready to, but I think with the holiday falling on a Sunday, which means Monday will be the day off, that, you know, helps families with the weekend, give them a longer weekend. My preference is a bonus for our employees so they can have a better Christmas for their families this year because of how things through inflation, fuel and everything has so dramatically gone up over the year and a half that, and we haven't been able to. So I'd like to see our employees have a nice holiday. I would prefer a bonus for them than a floating holiday, but, or a combination of both like we have sometimes done in the past, but I'm open to that. But that's what I'd like us as a commission to consider for our employees. Thank you.
thank you. Comments, questions regarding that?
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Shanefield.
I agree with Commissioner Winling on the bonus part. I also would like to see us potentially, and I don't like to close the courthouse, but look at doing a half a day on Friday, the 23rd. That gives them an extra half a day with their families over Christmas. And then obviously we'd be closed both Mondays, which is kind of goofy this year, but that's kind of, I think most businesses are doing that as the day after the holiday. So that's what I would like to look at. And I don't remember what we did last year for bonuses. Was it 500 apiece? Or was it a
Oh,
percentage?
Ms. Lane can tell us.
Could have been 400. I don't remember. Okay.
But did that include a floating holiday as well?
I don't recall.
I don't recall. I think there's a combination. You know,
I thought we
before,
did a floating holiday and 400.
if I might suggest, if, let's find out where the other commissioners are, Mr. Chairman. And then let's have Mr. McLean come up at the next meeting, because that'll give us time to decide and he can bring us what was in the past, what the options have been in the past, and give us a little more solid information to make a more informed decision based on past practice.
Good call.
Thank you.
Commissioner Tillman,
Yeah,
thoughts?
I agree. Let Mr. McLean bring us some information to consider.
Thank you. Commissioner Lloyd?
Yeah, I'd like to see what Mr. McLean has and look at the financial implications, but I also do think I think throughout my 4 years, I've been a strong proponent for our employees and I want to work toward what we can do to help them out. So, but I want to be able to look at numbers and take a look at options to make that best decision. So thank you.
Thank you. So we'll ask Mr. McLean to bring us some options at our November 1st meeting and make a decision on that day. So,
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
may I ask Clerk Lane that she tells Mr. McLean that he'll be on the agenda for the next meeting? Thank you.
Thank you. Then our next agenda item is an executive session. We have legal matters to discuss. And we will, my knowledge, not have any action coming out of there, I don't believe, but stay tuned if you'd like to. So I'll entertain a motion to enter executive session.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We are in executive session, and do you need a break before? Okay. Then we will go with Mr. De Leon right off the bat here. Thanks, everyone.